All right, my friends, we are back in the house with James Larson. We are going to be talking about the best $2,000 to $3,000 sealed subwoofers. How you doing, James?
I'm good, thank you.
So I wanted you to do this roundup because there's a lot of advantages to having a sealed subwoofer. The biggest one is size. You know, sometimes people can't put a big box in a room. So you got to find a compromise. And in most cases, the reason why people go sealed is because you could use a smaller box. But if you want to have good performance out of a sealed sub, you've got to have a driver that has good range, good excursion. You got to have a pretty beefy amplifier in that box, and you have to have a subwoofer that behaves well. So there's a lot of engineering that goes into making a sub smaller while still giving you good performance. Obviously, you can't beat the laws of physics. You're always going to have some compromises when the box gets too small. But James, you've reviewed dozens of subwoofers over the last few years, and you've done a lot of sealed subwoofers. And I was like, why don't we just do a roundup of all the subs? I think actually you were the one that said it originally. I'm like, you know what? That's a great idea. So that's what we got here. You got a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to put this up on the screen, and I'm just have you kind of do the presentation.
Sure, okay. Like the title says, 2,000 to 3,000 sealed subs. I just noticed that, you know, in recent history, you've actually reviewed a whole bunch of these sealed subs in this range, and like, why not kind of like do a little shootout for them? So, you know, just to bring them all together to see who is the best at what. You know, I don't think there's a best between these. I guess, spoiler alert, there's not one that's all around best, but they'll each have their advantages, I would say. So
it's a good mashup of brands, like some of the brands that you wouldn't expect to be in the comparison, but I think it's great that we have such a diversity of products that we review.
Yeah, I mean, there's something for everyone here, and I don't think there's a bad sub on the lot. So like,
okay,
here's a comparison table. Like different subs for different needs. They're all sealed. That's what they have in common, and also they're around 2,000 to 3,000. And
yeah, so actually the cheapest one in this lot is the REL brand, which is usually a premium brand price wise. So they come in at $1,900 with a 15 and 1,000 watt amp, and it still meets our large Baseaholic room size rating, which is surprising for REL because most of their subs are little and they just don't have massive output. So that's good considering for under $2,000 you can get a REL subwoofer that meets our large Baseaholic room size rating.
yeah, it's kind of a new like attack they're taking, at least for like a more affordable home theater centered subwoofer line, the HT line. Yeah, so they actually came out with a sub that's not super expensive that still has pretty good output capabilities, and we reviewed it. It caught my eye, and I said, let's review this sucker. It looks like it could be really good, and I think it was. So that, you know, all these subs that we have listed here that we're comparing are ones we have in-depth reviews on. So if you want to get in the nitty-gritty, just look up the reviews for these.
Yeah, and obviously the ones that are the output monsters here in the comparison are going to be the SVS SB16-Ultra as well as the JTR RS1. And, you know, the SVS is obviously more cost-effective at $2,300. The JTR one is the most expensive of the lot. But there are some differences there, and there's some advantages of each of those that we'll go into. But like you said, James, this is a good roundup of subwoofers. I guess the one that's the least value-oriented would be the Sigberg one because it only gets our medium room size rating. It's almost $3,000, has a 500 watt amp, but it also is the smallest.
It's by far the smallest. Yeah, it is. It's not quite like these others, but I really like that sub. It's really premium. Look, one of the best amps you can buy, the Hypex Encore, right?
Oh
like
yeah, that's
a sub
true.
with that and the excellent drivers. The build quality is excellent. It's made in Norway, so like it's very premium and a high-end product, and it still has pretty good output. So while it's medium, it's only held back by the criteria that we set at like 25 hertz, right? But above that point, the output is really good. I mean, its mid-bass output hovers around 116 dB, I think, in burst testing, which is really good. That's something you'd expect from a 15-inch sub, not a 10-inch. So
that is pretty. So you'll get a lot of bass punch from a sub like that. If you're setting up a music system, that would probably be really advantageous.
Yeah, it's just a good little well-rounded sub. It belongs in this roundup for sure. Here is a graph of the burst output of each of these subs. And like the bigger the sub is, or the bigger the driver is, the more powerful the amp. Obviously, the more output you can get, which is why the JTR sub is so far ahead of these others. So we have the JTR, SVS, Arendal. Like most of these are 15s. The Arendal is like a dual 13.8. The Sigberg, as you said, is a dual 10. The SVS is a 16, although really if you measure it, it's a 15, really. Just a really big 15. JTR is a full-fledged 18-inch woofer. And so...
Well, the JTR driver, that's probably, if not the best, one of the best 18-inch drivers on the market. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot that went into that driver. And I think the X-Max on it is like 30-something millimeters, 35, 36 millimeters, something crazy.
Yeah, it's a tremendous driver, and it gives it such a big advantage over all these other subs. It's not even that much bigger, I think, than enclosure. It's not much bigger than, say, the SVS's enclosure. But just the driver and the power, it's being fed a 2,400 watt amp, watts of amplification. So like, it's just, it's really, it gives it such a big performance advantage over all these other subs. But the cost is all these other subs, they spend more time on like fine tuning, like the finish, and like making it more palatable for like the so-called like the spouse approval factor, right? This JTR does none of that. It does not.
The JTR's got a face only a mother can love.
I like it. I think that's cool, but yeah, it's not made to be like living room friendly. It's really made for like a dedicated home theater. But it's like, I think that's a shame. I think they should make it nicer so that there could be a version for a living room because, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. So yeah, so viewers can pore over this chart at their leisure. But yeah, okay. So first up, we just ran a review on this. So the Arendal Sound 1723 Subwoofer 2S, which is kind of a weird naming scheme, but it's what they went with. Yeah, dual 13.8-inch driver, nice, very sophisticated amplifier with like XLR inputs, outputs, RCA inputs, outputs. So I think 7-band PEQ, app control, right? The works, right, for the sub, and it's really nice looking, and it's not even that big relative to this performance. It's really good.
Yeah, it's not a giant box; it's more rectangular shaped. It's taller,
Yeah, it's taller, and it's not. I mean, that's about a 14-inch driver, right? And look how big that driver is compared to the enclosure. It's a modestly sized sub. I wouldn't say it's small, but it's not big, not huge, right? And the performance and like features and everything for what you get, it's just. I would call this among our this roundup probably the most well-rounded sub for everything as a package, right? It's the most well-rounded. And it's kind of what you're looking for in like a sealed sub, And
it has the opposing drivers for force canceling, so the cabinet won't shake. You could put stuff on it if you want to turn it into an end table, like you said.
Yeah, an end table, or you could use as a speaker stand because the speakers won't fall off. They're not vibrating off. So like, I think it'd be cool as like a speaker stand for maybe a 1723 monitor, right, from Arendal Sound. So that'd be a really cool setup.
Yeah, that's true. You put like a little rubber felt under it and then put the speaker on top.
Yeah, and of course, like going through these like little like these points here, it's the 5-year warranty. You get like all their like customer service goodies, like 60-day trial, right? I think it's about the most well-rounded sub here. It's not the most overall highest performing, right? But it checks so many boxes. It's just a really good well-rounded sub, and those who want to know more can look at our review that we just published not a few weeks ago. Yeah, really good sub, and it looks great too. I think it looks very nice.
Yep.
Yeah, so like we just said, a great balance between performance, feature, size, appearance, and post-purchase support. It does everything well, and while not huge, it wouldn't be for those looking. Yeah, it is not huge, but it's not tiny either. Like we said.
Look, but I remember when you did the listening test on it, you didn't find any warts with the sub. You actually gave it a very favorable response to how you thought it sounded for music and for movies. So guys, we do have a very detailed written review. I'll try to link it up here in the video so you guys can check it out at your own leisure.
Yeah, it had no shortcomings, really. It's just good. It's just a good sub, a well thought out and well designed sub. So the RS1, the JTR RS1.
Yeah.
Like what, it kind of tells us, just a glance at it tells the whole story. Tremendous output, huge output from this thing. Like, and also the time domain performance, the group delay that we measure is like, I don't think I've ever measured anything that's beaten this and that. Maybe a few other subs kind of come close, like a few other sealed subs have come close to this, but nothing really has beaten it for time domain performance, right? And it's a shame. There's a shame. The shame about that is that it's kind of just a home theater sub, you know, that's kind of marketed as that. Like, but it's the sound quality is so audiophile, right? So
It's a super audiophile sounding
so high
sub.
fidelity,
Yeah.
so high fidelity, right? So like, it's a shame that it'll get kind of just used as like a big boom machine for movies when it does music and all that stuff so well, right? So high fidelity.
No, I helped Don set up 4 of these in his house, and it's epic. I mean, the bass that's coming out of it is so tight and articulate. And we've reviewed them at my house when Jeff brought in the RTJ modular speaker system, and the bass that we heard out of this things was just completely epic.
Like, yeah, those were the 18 subs from RTJ. They're a bit different. Same driver though. Same
driver, just the amp is external and it's like twice the price, but very similar.
Yeah. It's anyways. Yeah, but this is like, it's just not. They don't spend time making the sub look super fancy, so like that saves a lot of money, right? If they had this sub given a nice curved cam like with a gloss finish, it would probably be twice the price it is. So it's a good sub, but what you see is what you get. So yeah, going on to the next.
I kind of like the industrial look of it. I've seen it. I've seen it in Don's house, and it's industrial looking, but it's cool. I mean, if you're an audio guy, you'll be into it, especially with the grill off. It's just impressive. Yeah,
I don't know why it comes with a grill. Yeah, so like that driver, like there's not many features like this says, or summary says. There's not many features. It's just a really good driver, tons of amplification, and a rudimentary I shouldn't say rudimentary, but just a basic cabinet. It's well built, very well built, but doesn't do anything fancy, like the enclosure at least. But like you said, Gene, the driver is a masterpiece. It's like a, and the one we reviewed, they made improvements on the driver since I've reviewed this, right? So like the current driver they have right now has even lower inductance. This is a very low inductance, high throw 18.
Yeah, I thought he said it was like 0.1 millihenry or something really insanely low for a driver of that size, and the bandwidth on the subwoofer is really wide as a result. It doesn't just roll off. It's 80 hertz. It's flat.
No,
probably.
It'll go out to 600 hertz.
It's crazy.
It's like really wide bandwidth driver. So like yeah, it's just I think it's one of the best 18-inch drivers that you can get at any price. Like if this was on, being sold separately, it would be like $1,000 at least more.
Yeah, I mean, guys, if I had the budget for buying a system and could spend $3,000 on a sub or $6,000 on 2, this would probably be probably close to my number one choice. I mean, there's some great subs out there, but after hearing and experiencing this sub, if you could handle the aesthetic of it, great. Otherwise, there's some other great ones as well, but this is a serious sub.
Yeah. Yeah, the masterpiece of a driver, but I guess we can move on. So yeah, we reviewed the MartinLogan Dynamo. This is about a couple $1,000s. It doesn't have. I mean, it's a good driver. It doesn't have a huge amount of X-Max, but it's very sensitive. So it's mid bass, like I think 60, 70 hertz. It's almost as much as the JTR. Like that's really good, right? That's really, really, really good. And it's not a very big sub. It's a pretty sub without being huge.
True.
And so like that's like it has a lot of pros, especially if you can't have a big industrial looking monster like the JTR in your room. All right, it's a good looking sub, and it has a tremendous amount of punch for mid bass.
And it's got Anthem Arc room correction in it, which is outstanding for controlling the modal problems in your room. Sure. And you could reorient the driver, so you could either be down firing or front firing. You could change the foot orientation on it, which I thought was a cool touch.
Yeah, and it has app control, so it's got some really cool things. Yep. Yeah, and you can run the arc routine from the app. So so I guess the next slide will kind of summarize it. Yeah, relatively small for 15. It's not the deep bass monster really. I don't expect it to do anything below 20 hertz, but from like 30 and above, it's really nice. It's really good. Lots of inputs. It has like, you can do, I think, balanced, unbalanced. There's a wireless little thing, or it's like wireless ready, and has speaker level inputs, which is weird, right? You don't see many subs in this range with speaker level inputs, but this one has it, so it can accommodate a lot of different systems. Arc room correction. That's great. It's a good sub if you want to incorporate it into a system that doesn't have some fancy AV processor, right? Or if you have like a simple 2-channel system, like an integrated amp. This is really nice because it base manages itself and it calibrates itself to the room, and you can just hook it up to your speakers if you got like kind of an old style or old fashioned like integrated amp, right? It has speaker level inputs, so it can accept speaker wire as an input. So it's a good sub, and it's a good choice for depending on the system and your needs. It could be the perfect fit for you. So
Sure.
yeah. So going on, this is a lot like the MartinLogan. I wouldn't say, I guess not a lot like. It's just 15, but this is a considerably larger enclosure. And the advantage of that is that it gives the driver more room to breathe. So it has superior deep bass output. Yeah, and like Rel Acoustics, their design philosophy is like they want everything simple. So they try to use as few filters and like interference as possible with like the signal to driver. So like all it is like they just try to find the optimum driver, optimum cabinet, put it together, give it enough amplification, and it's simple. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. And it gives really good time domain performance. It forces them to use a driver that works well with that cabinet. Like a lot of these other subs, the cabinet is a little too small for the driver. It's not optimal, right? In a lot of cases, it's not optimal. But this, they have to do it because they're not having any digital like any equalization or anything like that at all to like help the driver out, help the performance, right? So like, it's a good sub. It's not among the more expensive ones. I think this is like 1900.
Yeah,
this is 1900, and yeah, it's
so
just
it doesn't have app control. It doesn't have any kind of room correction. Doesn't have PEQ. Doesn't have. It's stripped down.
It is stripped down, and there's advantages. Like we said, the time domain performance it's a big advantage, and it forces them to use a good, fundamentally good driver without any kind of drawbacks. So I guess we can go to the summary slide after this one. Yeah, Rel's design philosophy is to interfere with the source signal as little as possible, and I think there's some good points to this. Like we said, the time domain performance as well is this is one of the subs that has true 12 dB per octave roll off, right?
So you get better room gain as a result.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything to like some of these subs have high pass filters, so they don't take full advantage of the low end that a sealed sub can have, but this one doesn't do that. It has the full all the deep bass you would want from a sealed subwoofer, and it gives the driver is given enough room to do that too. So yeah, that's.
But I guess the only concern from what I remember reading your review is since there's no limiters built in, you can make this misbehave at very extreme output, right? Like you could get a little bit misbehavior, maybe on test tones more than program.
Well, I mean, you could force any of these subs can be driven. Any sealed sub can be driven to pretty heavy distortion, except for maybe the JTR one. But like all these subs can be driven to distortion. This I could, this is not like it can do that too, but. And as I remember, for the tests that I ran, it wouldn't bottom out. So yeah, it could distort if you push it hard enough. But that's true for most of these others. But this wasn't actually pushed to the point where it was like bottoming out or at risk of damaging itself. So like, it's I guess it might have a suspension tough enough so that it doesn't like the former doesn't hit the back plate and deform it and destroy it. Right. So I didn't hear that when I pushed, and I pushed it as hard as it can possibly be pushed. So
that's good news. Well, it sounds like it's a good for the REL line. This is kind of their best bang for the buck.
By far, yeah, I think it is. I mean, they have some. I think they have some other good subs, but they're really expensive. This, not super expensive, but very good performance.
Yeah.
So moving on to the Sigberg audio, like we mentioned this earlier, small yet powerful subwoofer, and like we said, it uses one of the best, if not best, like qualitative like amps on the market. The Hypex Encore plate amp is like probably the highest quality plate amp you can buy at any price.
Those are audiophile amplifiers, Hypex. Serious
amplifiers. Extremely low distortion, extremely low noise.
Smallest sub of the group, right?
Yeah, if you need a small sub, I think this is probably the best one you can buy. I mean, it's not super tiny like that little thing from Kef or the little thing from that little 3000 micro from SVS. It's not quite that tiny, but it is very small, and it squeezes as much performance as possible out of a small package. it's like the performance is really good.
Oh
The
yeah,
size,
this has a much higher performance than that Micro 3000.
all of them. Nothing,
Yeah,
no micro sub can touch this. Again, they
yeah,
can't come close to it. But it
yeah.
also has other features like it's an expensive sub, but it's really nice. Look, it's a luxury product basically. It's a 9-band parametric equalizer, a very wide band, response. You can, like 400 hertz bandwidth. Not that you're going to use that high, but that it's good that you can cross over any frequency and not worry about it. Like we said before, 116 dB mid bass output. That's what you'd expect from a 15.
That's serious.
Right? A good
Yeah.
15. That's what you expect from a good 15. And this is just 210s. So it's made in Norway.
Yeah, and the box is like 14-inch, a little less than a 14-inch cube, I think. So it's very reasonable.
Yeah, the goal was to squeeze as much performance out of a small sub as possible. And since this is like, I guess it's more for the European market where space is more at a premium, right?
Sure.
That really comes in handy. But there's a lot of places here in the US where people want a really high performing small sub, and it's not cheap, but I think it's one of the best, if not the best sub that does that. So yeah, like we say, a modestly sized luxury audio product that justifies its high cost through performance and high-end components, as well as its European manufacturers. This is one of the few subs here that's not made in China. I don't think the JTR sub is made in China. Yeah, the JTR sub is made in the United States. I think most of the other subs are made in China. Like I said, mid bass comparable to many 15s, even though it's a lot smaller than any 15. Yeah, if you need a sub, if your budget is relaxed but space, you have space constraints, this is the sub in my opinion. I don't think I need to touch it.
It's a good looking product.
It is. Going on to the SVS SB16. I mean, this is kind of a known quantity. We reviewed this a few years ago. I'm going to say the build quality, even though SVS is more like a mass manufacturer, somehow the build quality of this is better than any of the others. It's built like a brick, right? It's a boulder, right? The build quality of this is just it hasn't been touched. It's really, 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 really good.
Well, they've been doing this a long time, so they had a lot of time to really perfect their art,
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think the others could do it, but I think SVS just wanted a really, really premium product. Right? This is their flagship sealed subwoofer. So they threw everything they had in it, and as a result, this is 120 pounds. This is the heaviest sub of this roundup, right? And it's like, it's so heavy, man. I remember dealing with this thing. It's so heavy. It's not huge. It's not small, but it's not huge. And oh man, it's just a block of like, just a huge boulder, right? Not huge, but yeah. So like this is kind of a known quantity. Their 16-inch driver with that 8-inch voice coil has really high excursion. It's a 16-inch driver. If you measure it frame to frame, it's not really a 16-inch. It's a 15-inch driver, but the excursion and the displacement of this 15 is like way more than any of the other 15s in this.
It's got a huge roll on it.
No, it's real. The excursion on this is serious. It's huge, right? And
they've got a great app. So you could control this with an app, and it's got a PEQ in it, so you could really tune it to your room. And I think you could even pair the subs together if you have multiples.
I don't think you can do that with this. I think you can do that with like the Arendals, and the Pro Listens will do that. I don't think this will do that.
Oh, I thought SVS could do that with their app.
I don't think so, but I haven't used it in a while.
Okay. Well, if anybody knows, give a comment down below. If you got multiple SVS subs, can you control all your subs with the same app and do the EQ to all of them at the same time, or is it independent EQ to each of the subs? I'm kind of curious. Would you take this over the 13 though? I mean, is there a performance advantage? Because the 13 is really good and it's a lot smaller.
Well, this has much more displacement, so I think the 13 matches this and like mid bass. It's a great solution if you want a lot of deep bass out of like a small enclosure, right?
It's a time tested sub. It's been around for a while,
Yeah, it's really good. So which is right for you? Like, so here we look at, because all these none of these are bad subs. They all have their like situational, like the optimal situations that they're kind of they can fit. Like performance above all, that's easy. JTR RS1. It's like, holy cow, really amazing, right? It's the most expensive one, but it's the highest performing one, but you sacrifice like a lot of like the sophisticated amp features, and like niceties, like a nice finish, like all that stuff to get the most bang for your buck as raw output goes. The JTR RS1 is the one for that. For deep bass, for systems that like, if you don't want, I think the SVS SB16 sub, its strength is if you want deep bass from not a huge ported box, right? That's what that does. It's really nice looking, and it gives you lots of deep bass without having to resort to a huge ported box. That's what it does. It's the best for that purpose. And the JTR would be better, but let's say you want something that can fit in a living room. The SB16 is a really nice looking sub.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's not.
And you want app control, and you want to, there's advantages.
All that stuff, and SVS's customer support, which is really, really, really good, of course.
Yes.
But what if you want something that has mid bass and all the features and like niceties of like a modern subs? I would say the most well-rounded sub, like we said before, Arendal 1723 2S does everything well. It doesn't do. I don't think it does anything like it doesn't do one thing the best out of any of these subs, but it does everything well and has no shortcomings.
Yeah.
If you're willing to give up all the sophisticated amp features of the Arendal, you can get Rel Acoustics HT 1510 is less expensive. It just doesn't have any of those amp features that are all that sophistication that the Arendal has.
No app.
But if you want to save some money and get fundamentally good performance, the Rel can do that. Yeah, or for like mid bass, if your application is mid bass or music, and music doesn't tend to dig that low. There's not a lot of music that digs below 40 hertz, right? If you don't care about, obviously, I could say if you don't care about the looks, the JTR RS1, but if you care about looks and size, the MartinLogan Dynamo is like a small sub, and it has a tremendous amount of punch in mid bass. So and it'll work in any kind of system due to its connectivity, right? You can integrate it into any system. So like that's a good solution for audiophiles who don't have like AV processors.
Mm-hmm.
And as we said before, for something with high falsification, if you want the most output from a small enclosure, Sigberg Audio 10D. It's expensive, but nothing really touches it as far as small sub performance goes.
Right. And
like we said before, if you have a 2-channel system that's not like kind of old-fashioned, right, the MartinLogan Dynamo is the one you want because it can be integrated into it very easily and EQ'd thanks to our.
Yeah, so if you've got a 2-channel receiver, it doesn't have subwoofer outputs on it, you want to hook it up speaker level, this is pretty much a great option for you. And you can go and, like you said, use the Anthem Arc room correction to flatten the bass out.
Yeah, so it's a very, very versatile. Probably the most versatile sub is the MartinLogan Dynamo sub. So it's a great unit. So yeah, so here's some alternatives that I haven't really reviewed. I think we did run a review on the JL Audio E sub.
We did. We reviewed that years ago. It was actually Josh Rickey that did that one. And
yeah, I did.
I've
heard. I heard them on audio shows. It's pretty old.
I love that sub.
But it's in this price range too. It's really, really nice. Like, and I'd say if it was in this shootout, it would probably be the nicest looking sub. It's not a huge sub, but it's a gorgeous little like gloss black unit, right? If you want something that's nice, like looks really, really nice, and aren't as concerned with sheer mid bass headroom, I think that's a good solution. The GL Audio also has all those other features and stuff, and very good customer support, and a dealer network support too. Unlike all these others, right? There's very good dealer network. I guess the MartinLogan would have dealer network support too. Another alternative in this price range, you can get dual Shoe Research ULS 15 Mark IIs, which we've reviewed. That's like a really, really good budget sub. It's about $1,000 each, so you can get 2 shipped for about $2,200, and that'll have tremendous performance.
Yeah, Shoe doesn't get enough publicity anymore, and he's still those are great subs. They're just they're
so good. Yeah, they've never really for like bang for the buck. They've never really. The ULS 15 Mark II has been out for quite a while. It's never really been topped as far as sheer bang for the buck goes. If you want the most performance for your money, right? It's like it's been so good for so long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, yeah, just like. It's older, but it doesn't make it like worse than anything else. It's just so good. It's been so good for so long. It's still a great alternative here. If you wanted the most, like say the highest mid bass performance, or mid bass performance higher than any of these other options, alternatives, or the choices we've mentioned so far, you could get the 2 of these, and it would be outperform a JL audio. I mean, the JTR sub.
A single, yeah.
Yeah. So like, that's a good deal. Also, one of the oh yeah, going on to the ELAC Varo. I don't know if you've seen this. It's kind of a trapezoidal sub. It has a dual pulse driver. Have you seen this sub?
No.
Gene, it's a new sub from ELAC. It's $3,000. It's kind of a luxury product, right? It looks really nice. 2 drivers. They're like dual opposed, and it has a weird like I said, trapezoidal shape, and like I think it has app control, and like it's a fancy, it's a, a nice sophisticated new sub. I don't know how it performs. I heard it at an audio show, but I don't, you haven't reviewed this. I don't know how it really performs, right? I expect it should be pretty good. Two 12s with the 1200 watt amp, but that's out there. That's an alternative maybe to look at. We did review the Stark Sound SW15. You could get 3 of those for less than $3,000, easy, right?
When they're on sale, right?
No, not even when they're on sale. You can get 3 of them for $2,400, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah, so as with the Shoe, the Shoe dual drive, the big advantage, of course, is you can address room modes with multiple subs, right? No other single sub solution can do that, and that's such a huge qualitative advantage for sound quality, right? That's a huge advantage, right? To addressing room mode, if you can place them in the spots where they can address like nulls, and if you can place them optimally, that's just going to give you the best sound quality for any of these choices. If you can accommodate multiple subs and put them in the places where they go best, that's going to give you the best sound quality. Period.
Yep.
That's a good sub. It's on its own. It's not it's fine. It's a good value, I'd say. But I think its real strength is when you use multiples. Yeah, it's a high value, and when you use multiples, you can adjust movement. It's not a big sub either. Like, it's not even as big as the Shoe sub, like the Shoe US15. It's a small sealed 15 that has fundamentally good performance, and it's a high value product, as you said. And then there's also the Rhythmic. This is the one sub here of all these I have not heard in person, the Rhythmic F18, but there's
they make good subs.
Yeah, there's detailed measurements of it. I mean, I think Josh Ritchie had measured it and published those measurements, and it performs very well. It's not huge. It's actually, it is pretty big. It's a pretty big for a sealed sub, but it is an 18-inch sub, and but it's not super expensive for a powerful 18. It's like not even $2,000. For that, you get 900 watt long throw 18-inch driver, and that's something to consider. I think that's worth considering. But like I said, I haven't heard the sub. I don't have I don't have any experience with it, but I expect it would be very good. So there you have it.
Well, there you have it, guys. There's a lot of options for you here to choose from. James, thanks for giving us kind of a rundown of all these different subs. And I sometimes forget how many subs we reviewed. When you do these roundups, I'm like, damn, we reviewed that one. Yes, I remember. So you guys have a lot of options here to choose from. I'll try to put some affiliate links for any of the companies that we have affiliate links for. So I appreciate if you guys use that. Guys, don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/audioholics. We appreciate your support. You get direct access to me if you want to suggest video topics. James, once again, thanks for coming on here and presenting all this awesome information. And until next time, my friends, keep listening.